Welcome ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to take a look at the Magicka Nightblade PvE build for Morrowind. So Nightblade's got quite huge buffs this patch through champion points changes and a few skill changes. So they're actually pretty good. I have seen a lot of people pick up Nightblades again. I do have a written guide on my website if you want to go check it out with various different gear setups and slightly different changes. I will also put a few links into the description from other people that play Nightblade so you can get the second opinion, because there's a lot of really good possible combinations in Morrowind, so it's really great. So in the first part I'm gonna talk about the basics, second part I'm gonna show you rotation, and I also want you to understand how you can modify your sustain, because there is people that like heavy attacks build, there's people that want to do light attack build and all that kind of stuff. As you see, our stats look pretty nice. I am currently using a 5-1-1 setup. It's not the must-have, you can run a 6-1 or a full light armor setup or something. Pretty high crit and spell damage. We're using the Thief Mundus Stone. And we are a vampire. The reason why we are a vampire is because they give us this here 10% more magic recovery. It's nice to have. It's not a lot if you have a heavy attack setup, but something. And this here. Just be aware, if there's a lot of fire damage, maybe like decrease the stage to the vampire stage to level 1, because then you don't get any extra fire damage. Like in the new trial, House of Fabrication, if you have level 2 or higher, you're gonna almost get one shot, so you really don't wanna do that. But in other trials with no fire damage, no problem. Race, so I can recommend a High Elf or a Dark Elf, those are probably the two best ones. Breton also works, but you will lack some damage. The reason why this is good, because it gives us 4% extra shock damage, flame and frost. And you also get 10% max Magicka and some Magicka recovery. Dark Elves are also nice because they give extra fire damage. Buff food wise, you can use this one, max health and max Magicka, or the Witchmother's Potent Brew. What is very important, you should have around 17k health, more or less. I don't recommend going lower. If you use Witchmother's Potent Brew, you need to put a few points into the health attribute, or use a health glyph on one of the item sets. Now, gear wise, so Scathing Mage is basically a must-have for Nightblades. You will have an average uptime of like 70 to 75%. That's a lot, okay? And you see, it gives us 504 additional spell damage, and those can be scaled with like spell damage pots and all that kind of stuff, so it's even more. But this is a must-have. The next best option would be Julianos. It's easier to get because you can craft it, but Scathing will give you more damage overall. Free Moondancer. Now we use this to get Minor Slayer. Obviously you could use gold jewelry. Willpower also works, but I think Moondancer is slightly better. Now here we use a monster set, but it's not a must-have. There is quite a few good options, like in the new trial, Halls of Fabrication for example. You could run Valkin to get more health, or you could run 5 pieces Moondancer. Because sometimes, like Grofdar, if you can't go melee, it doesn't do any damage, right? Valkin has like average damage output, so maybe it's even better to get Moondancer to get the 5-piece proc. It's a lot of Magicka recovery or a lot of spell damage, so that's the next good option. If you can stand melee, use Grofdar because it's the most damage, but if you feel like Grofdar doesn't do enough damage, try Valkin. If you still think Valkin is not good, then use 5 Moondancer. The reason why I prefer Grofdar over Valkin is, let me check, do I have... Grofdar 1-piece bonus is Magicka, right? And the 1-piece bonus of Valkin is a health bonus. So, because we get more Magicka, all our skills do more damage. With Valkin you only get the health bonus, so you don't, like, you kinda lose a little bit of damage. If you run 5 Moondancer, you gain a spell damage bonus and the 5-piece bonus. So it's totally up to you. Just have to be aware that if you use 5 Moon Dancer, you will have a 7 light setup, which means you will have very low spell resistance and physical resistance. Play around a little bit, look what suits you best, and then go with what you like the most. At the moment I'm using all spell damage glyphs on the jewelry. However, if you feel like, oh, I miss a little bit sustain, you could use a Magicka recovery glyph. You need to play around with it. There is no like best setup. You need to feel comfortable with your setup. If you think, oh, I don't have enough sustain, use a Magicka recovery glyph. In terms of weapons, I have 2 Maelstrom weapons, a lightning and a fire staff, both sharpened. Now, I've seen some people run double fire. The reason why I choose lightning is because of the AoE damage you can do. It has a lot of splash damage. Which one is it this here? Shock heavy attacks damage nearby enemies for 139% of the damage done. So we don't need any AoE ability like Sap Essence or something like that. We just do heavy attacks. Heavy attacks restore Magicka, so on trash fights we have 0 sustain issues. That's why I prefer those. Drain Magicka poisons on the front bar. They're really strong, they help with sustain a lot, but they're quite expensive, so try them out. But yeah, they cost a lot, because in like 3 hours you use like 1,500 of them. They go away so fast, it's insane. If you don't use poisons, then you could run a Moon Dancer stuff here, for example, with a spell damage enchantment. The reason why I have two Maelstrom staves here is because of this. You see, it gives us the Crushing Wall enchantment, so 1,341 additional damage from light and heavy attacks, and it also adds 189 spell damage. Now here it says suppressed by the equipped poison, but you keep the spell damage. You see 2046, and remove this, you still 2046. You only lose the extra damage on your Wall of Elements, but you keep the spell damage. That's why this stuff is slightly better than, for example, an extra Moon Dancer stuff with a poison enchant. Because from a Moon Dancer stuff with a poison enchant, you only get 124 spell damage, versus this here with 189. Obviously they're quite difficult to get, so if you don't have a Maelstrom, you could use a Master, you can use Moon Dancer, or just a random sharpened stuff. As long as it's sharpened, it's good. You could run Precise, but then you have to make sure to adjust your champion points a little bit. You need like 58 points in spell erosion to get almost 5k penetration. The difference is really small. With the CP and the Precise stuff, it's like 1-2% less damage. So a Precise Maelstrom stuff is also a good option. But you need 2 then, because you shouldn't have a Precise and a Sharpen. Kinda tricky. About the Master Architect, before I forget it. This is a new set. When you, the 5-piece bonus is pretty nice. When you use an ultimate ability, you and the closest 2 allies within 28 meters of you gain Major Slayer for 10 seconds, buffing your damage by 15%. Now, is this a good set for a Nightblade? It's hard to say, because most of the times we are using the Destro ulti. It's just so crazy strong. However, if you want to use Soul Harvest with the Master Architect, also works. I recommend trying to get the set and play around a little bit. Most people still prefer this setup, because most of the times you want to use the Destro ultimate. Like, the Destro ulti is so strong, it deals so much AoE damage. Soul Harvest is only single target, so that's the problem. Champion points. So we have 61 Warlord, 100 here, 49 here. It doesn't really matter. Actually, I don't even know. You see, the difference is really small. Here 15% and 11%. So, like, the champion system is very front loaded, so it doesn't really... The difference is really small. Now, in terms of the damage CPs, 56, 56. There is a lot of jump points. I have a guide on my website. You can go check it out if you want. 23 and 75. Now, is it worth putting 75 points in Thaumaturge? You need to decide that. It depends how much off balance you do have on the bosses. At the moment, there is a lot of heavy attack builds, and heavy attack removes off balance. So if you only have like 20 to 40% off balance, it's most likely not worth putting so many points in here. So you can remove a lot of those till you reach something like this, maybe 90%, and then you can use some more in Master at Arms, for example. Staff Expert. That's another option. On my website you will find the setup with the 75 Thaumaturge. Just saying, you need to kind of figure out, if there is a lot of heavy attack builds, there will not be a lot of off balance, so you can be like, okay, screw the 75 Thaumaturge, put more points here, like 44 and 3 Staff Expert, and you will be good to go. 61 Ironclad, 3 Spell Shield, 49, 49, 48. That's really nice setup. You see, this here caps at 25, and with only 48 points, we sit at 18%. That's a lot. And by jump points, what do I mean? Basically, you see 18.24% gives us 18% damage mitigation from dots. If I'm one lower, 17.98%, it only gives me 17% because it always scales down. So the 46, 45, 44, those like 2 points are useless, so I need to have 48 in here, otherwise it's not worth it. In terms of skills, there is a few things you want to look out for. You have some really nice passives. Catalyst, when you drink a pot you gain 20 ultimate, so you kinda need to learn to time this correctly. Like use the ultimate first and then drink the pot, stuff like that. Magicka Flood increases your max Magicka by 8% while a Ciphering ability is slotted. So those are Ciphering abilities. We have Siphoning attacks, Funnel and Crippling Grasp, so we get the 8% on both bars. And you also get a small ulti bonus, but that's automatically, basically. And then we have Master Assassin. No, it's not. This here, you get a little bit more spell crit. And then we have Hemorrhage, increase your critical damage down by 10%. That's also nice. And you see, dealing critical damage grants you and your group minus savagery, increasing your weapon critical rating by 657. You probably will have a few stem boys in your group. Might be nice for them. Other than that, if you look out for a more sustained build with Witch Mothers, this will help a lot. And if you feel like you need more protection, you see, casting a shadow ability grants you Mage Resolve and Mage Reward. So we use Twisting Path. This will help with, we will get like the damage mitigation for quite a short duration only, but it's something in the end. Because if you run 7 light, you will be squishy. Oh, I forgot that kinda. You want to run all Magic enchants and Divine. Now you could run on the big pieces, Infused is also a good choice. There's basically 0 difference. Just make sure to have Divine on the small pieces. Like I said, if you can sustain, run a 5-1-1, so 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy. If you want a little bit better cost reduction, you can run 6 light, 1 heavy. And if you want just full cost reduction with 7 light, then just be careful, because you're very squishy. See, this here reduces the Magicka cost of your abilities by 2% for each piece of light armor equipped. So you can go up to 14%, but then you need to run 7 light. Now, in terms of skills overall, so this is our front bar, Destro ulti here. You need a Destro ability on each bar because of the Ancient Knowledge. You see, while you have a Destruction Staff ability slotted, a lot of people forget this. You only get the increased damage from the Flame and Lightning Staff if you have ability slotted. Here Destro ult, and here the blockade. So we are good to go. Harness Magicka, must have, really nice shield. Siphoning attacks, now this restores Magicka. You want to keep this up at all times. You need to let it run out though, otherwise you see, you restore up to 4270 additional Magicka when the effect ends. If you reapply it before the effect ends, you will not get this, so you need to let it run out. Funnel health. Now you can also use Swallow Soul. You could also try using the concealed weapon. It deals more damage. You see 2430 Magicka, 1700 Magicka. That's the main reason why Funnel Health or Swallow Soul is so good. It's so cheap compared to concealed weapon or compared to force pulls. I mean, they cost like 700 more Magicka per usage, so this is probably the way to go because it's the easiest thing to do for sustain. Merciless Resolve. Now here this got changed quite a lot. Now while active, hitting an enemy 5 light or heavy attacks. It used to be 4, but they increased it a little bit to 5. Heavy attacks changes this ability into Assassin's Will, allowing you to fire a single shot from a spectral bow at an enemy to deal 18k magic damage. Now I have seen crit this thing for over 100k, no joke, in trials. It hits so hard. And the thing is, you used to have, once you shot the bow, you used to have to reapply it already. But now, you can, as long as it's active, every time you do 5 light attacks, you can shoot the bow. You do another 5 light attacks, you shoot the bow. So you can use it 2 times most likely. If you're really good with animation cancelling, maybe even 3 times. But most of the times it will be 2. I really recommend tracking this buff on Surrender if you're on PC, because it's probably one of the more important. Inner Light gives you 7% max Magicka, 5% from here, and another 2 from this ability, passive. That's the ulti, strongest ulti. Shock one does more damage than the fire one most likely. The duration is longer, so extra ticks. Now the back bar, we have Blockade of Fire here. You see burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability, and when you have a Magicka Dragon Knight in your group that applies engulfing flames, you will get another 10% extra damage from this. On PC I usually track Blockade. It has 8 seconds duration. When I see, oh, it reaches 2 seconds, I swap from the front bar to the back bar and reapply Blockade, Grasp and Twisting. Crippling Grasp, really strong single target dot. And then we have Twisting Puff. Now this here, it is kind of a dot, but it still scales with Master at Arms for some weird reason. And it doesn't look like Zenimax will change it soon. You see Blockade 2282, 2290. Now this will do slightly more damage because of the fire burning and all that kind of stuff, but this is like they buffed the damage of Twisting Puff this patch, and then it also gets extra damage from Master at Arms, which is new. And the thing is, this is also a direct damage ability, also got buffed by Master at Arms. This also gets buffed by Master at Arms, so that's why you see like Nightblade's a lot of damage abilities got buffed through the changes from champion points. Because this didn't exist before Morrowind. And 17% extra damage? Well, I take that, thank you. Impale, your execute. It does full damage the moment the enemy reaches like 24.99%. And again Inner Light, and then the Soul Harvest. During execute you will only stay on this bar more or less. Unless you really need to reapply Siphoning attacks or Merciless Resolve. But yeah, Soul Harvest, and we just keep those 3 dots up. Now you wonder, why don't you run Trap? Well, you could run Trap if you want to. Either here on the front bar, I usually use it here. Because the execute phases are quite short. So it's better to have Inner Light on the front bar during most of the fight. That's basically about the gear setup. I will just now explain about the rotation and how you can change sustain, etc. Let's go to a target dummy. In terms of sustain, what can you do? Like I said, Witch Mother's Brew is a really nice option. And when you look at our stats, 44.6 and 17.1k, we drop down a little bit here and quite a lot. So we will lose like 4k Magicka because we have to invest 2k into health to get 17k health again. But we gain quite a lot of Magicka recovery. So that's another way to use sustain. Like I said, you could run 5-piece Moon Dancer because you get 432 Magicka recovery. If you use a synergy, that's quite a lot. Drain Magicka poisons are an option, or a Magicka recovery glove also works. There is a lot of good options. I for myself, especially in the new trial, on most boss fights there is kind of small breaks where you can't damage the boss really good, so you just heavy attack, because heavy attacks restore Magicka. So there is no point really going for a sustained setup because there is like kind of fight breaks anyway where you can recharge your Magicka. And obviously you have the potions which give a ton. Restore 7600 Magicka immediately, so that's a lot. Now in terms of rotation, so make sure to subscribe. I will probably do DPS tests on most classes once I'm done with all the the build videos, just to kind of show you examples and how the rotation works, and to give you an average what kind of DPS you should be looking for on a target dummy. Just keep in mind the target dummy doesn't represent trial DPS in any way. So why do we have this particular bar setup? It's really simple. Obviously, like I previously said, we need a siphoning ability on each bar to get 8% max Magicka. The reason why this is so nice, you see this has 8 seconds duration, 8 seconds and 11 seconds. Now you could run this on the front bar, but it's just a lot easier. So every time we swap to the back bar, I know I reapply like the blockade, the crippling and the twisting and weapon swap. That's like one part of the rotation, which is really easy memorizable. So every time you're like, okay, 2 seconds left on my blockade, I'm using funnel here till my blockade is 2 seconds, I weapon swap, blockade, crippling, twisting, then I weapon swap back. Always make sure to light attack between each ability, because especially if you have Maelstrom weapons. First off, the light attacks on Nightblades have an insane amount of DPS, and light attacks deal even more damage this patch. That's why another reason Nightblades are stronger. Light attacks got the 15% damage boost, and because of Master at Arms, which is also new, you get another 17% extra damage. And you have a few points into Staff Expert. So like you almost get 10k DPS from light attacks alone on the Nightblade. It's insane. The back bar. When we're on the front bar, you see you only have siphoning attacks. It has a 20 seconds duration, so it's really easy to keep up. And the Assassin's Will. And in between we just weave light attacks with funnel. Or Swallow Soul, whatever you prefer more. The moment I do 5 light attacks, Assassin's Will proc, and then you need to click the ability and it shoots. Right? That's the thing that changed. Now I do 5, I shoot, and I can do another 5 light attacks. Shoot again. Previous patch you had to reapply every time after the Spectral Bow was shot. Not anymore, so that's really nice. So you can reactivate this every 20 seconds. So you see, the rotation is not that difficult, you just have to get used to siphoning attacks and Merciless Resolve. I usually can use it twice in a rotation. If you're a really good Nightblade, probably even 3 times. But it's really tricky. Now what do we do in execute phase? Like I said, we want to stay on this bar here in execute. Because what you want to do is like always, you keep those 3 dots up, then Soul Harvest, and then you impale. Till blockade runs out, you reapply the 3 dots, and then impale again. Till blockade runs out, apply the 3 dots, and impale again. So the rotation are kind of chunked together, and it's not that difficult. Just have to be careful with your sustain and to keep up the sustain buffs. I still recommend, even in execute, keep up siphoning attacks because it still helps with the resource management. Now to show you this in a fast succession, just to give you kind of an idea of the rotation. Obviously, like I said, you can use rearming track, but you don't necessarily need to. I do think it does nice damage, but you have to be careful. It uses a lot of stamina, right? And in the new trial you need to block a lot and break free. So maybe at the beginning it's better to use the inner light, because you need all the stamina to block, break free or dodge roll. To show you the rotation again, we buff up, apply all the dots, and then we funnel weave. Spectral bow ready, I shoot, weapon swap at 2 seconds, reapply the dots. Funnel. Till spectral bow is ready, shoot, I funnel. Before I weapon swap, I reapply the Assassin's Will. Basically, I can use the Assassin's Will twice before it runs out, and then a second before I weapon swap, I reapply it and weapon swap. So it's really easy animation cancelable, because this is the full animation, pretty long. Now if I use weapon swap, you barely see the animation. Did you see that? Full animation cancelled with a weapon bar swap. So you don't necessarily lose time. If you're on PC, track blockade, it's 8 seconds with surrender. If you're on console, track crippling grasp, it's 8 seconds. Because on console you can't track ground-based abilities yet, so you need crippling grasp. I mean, both are 8 seconds long, so it doesn't really matter which one you track. But like I said, the moment it reaches 2 seconds, weapon swap, because you need time to weapon swap and then apply the ability again. You really want to make sure not to let the dots run out. If you let the dots run out, you lose damage. It's same with light attacks between abilities. If you don't light attack between abilities, you lose a lot of damage. That's very important. That's basically it about the Nightblade. Again, I will put a few other people's, like YouTube and like on Thumbnail Foundry, there's quite a lot of people that Furycraft around. So you can get the second opinion and ask them what they do, and maybe they have videos from the new trial and all kind of stuff. That's basically it. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comment section below. If you liked the video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Cheers.